Nam found the apartment on the seventh floor of An Lac apartment building almost by happy accident. Or at least he thought so at first. The rent is unbelievably cheap for a two-bedroom apartment that, although small and old, is located in a convenient location for his freelance writing work. After an unhappy family event, Nam needed a new start, a place hidden away from noise and prying eyes. The relative isolation of this apartment, located at the end of a long, dark hallway, seemed perfect. Ms. Lon, the apartment manager, a woman in her 50s with a warm smile but distant eyes, gave the key to Nam with a somewhat fake cheerfulness. "This is apartment 7B, Mr. Nam," she said, her voice a bit sad. "This floor is very quiet. In this whole hallway, only your apartment is occupied. The owners of the other apartments are empty or waiting for some repairs. You can work in peace. No one will bother you." Nam nodded in thanks, a little satisfied with this absolute privacy. The apartment was exactly what he expected. Old wooden floors that creaked under every step, lemon yellow painted walls that had turned porridge-colored, a few patches of peeling mortar revealing the red brick inside. The furniture only had a few basic items: a rickety bed, a wobbly wardrobe, and an old table and chairs in the living room overlooking a small balcony covered in dust. What caught Nam's attention the most was a small wooden door, painted the same color as the wall, located in a hidden corner between the bedroom and the bathroom. It looks like a built-in cabinet or storage unit. We tried to open it. It was locked tightly. Nam shrugged, thinking that perhaps the homeowner kept it for personal storage and didn't really care. He had better things to do than be curious about a locked door. The first night passed in almost absolute silence. Nam slept soundly for the first time after many stressful months. He told himself that he had made the right decision. But that peace didn't last. On the third night, around 2 o'clock in the morning, Nam was awakened by strange sounds. At first, they were vague, like a distant rattle, the sound of water running through old pipes. He tried to ignore it, thinking it was just the normal noises of an old building. But then he heard them more clearly. Footsteps. Not the sound of rapid or hurried footsteps, but slow, steady steps, as if someone was walking back and forth deliberately. The strange thing is that the sound seems to come from the apartment next door, apartment 7A, the apartment that Ms. Lon claims is vacant. The footsteps were heavy, as if the person walking was dragging something. Occasionally, the footsteps stopped right next to the common wall between the two apartments, then continued. Nam lay still on the bed, his heart pounding in his chest. He strained his ears to listen, try to convince himself that it was just an illusion or a sound coming from upstairs. But no, it was too close, too clear. A chill began to creep down his spine. The next morning, Nam met Mrs. Lon in the hallway. He pretended to ask aimlessly, "Grandma, did anyone come a look at the house or repair anything last night in apartment 7A? I heard some noise." Mrs. Land's smile stiffened for a moment. "There's no one there, man. That house has been locked for several months. The landlord has no intention of renting it out again. You must have heard something wrong. It's an old house. It often makes noise like that at night." She spoke quickly and then walked away, leaving Nam with growing doubts. The following nights, the steady sound of footsteps rang out at around 2:15 a.m. They become frighteningly familiar. Sometimes they are accompanied by soft, inarticulate whispers, like a secret conversation taking place just on the other side of a thin wall. Nam started losing sleep. He lay awake, waiting for those sounds to appear, his body tense with fear and curiosity. He started taking notes. Time, type of sound, personal feeling. This helped him feel a little more in control of the situation, maintaining a fragile shred of reason. Day 7:2 and 18 seconds a.m. Footsteps slow dragging. Lasts about 20 minutes. There's whispering like two people were arguing. Day 9:2 and 14 seconds a.m. Footstep. More rattling, sounds like furniture being moved. Stopped several times close to the wall. Day 12:2 and 20 seconds a.m. The sound of footsteps is very clear. There is a sound like someone lightly scratching the wall. Lasted nearly 1 hour. The lack of sleep begins to affect Nam. He became irritable and distracted. Writing stagnates. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed thicker, and sometimes he felt like someone was watching him from the dark hallway every time he opened the door. One evening, while trying to write, Nam heard a light tapping sound. Knock, knock, knock. 3 sounds, very soft, came from the small wooden door locked in the corner of the room. Nam was startled. The pen in his hand fell to the floor with a clang. He held his breath and listened. Nothing more. There was only the heavy silence of the apartment. His heart was beating wildly. Is there someone in there? No way. That door is locked. I already checked. Curiosity and fear tugged in Nam's heart. He approached the door, pressing his ear against the old wood. The air here seems a little colder. He didn't hear anything. He tried typing again, gently, knock, knock. Silent. Then from inside, a soft scratching sound sounded, like fingernails scraping against wood. Sue! Nam stepped back, immediately, goosebumps rising all over his body. He rushed to the living room, turned on all the lights, feeling like the darkness was trying to swallow him. That night, he did not dare to sleep in the bedroom anymore, but huddled on the old sofa, his eyes wide open, looking towards the hallway leading to the bedroom, where the mysterious door was silently hidden in the darkness. Things became increasingly strange. Small objects began to move on their own. The keys he must have left on the kitchen table were found on the windowsill. The book he was reading was lying face down on the floor, even though he clearly remembered placing it neatly on the table. The toothpaste in the bathroom was squeezed out unreasonably. Nam felt like he was gradually losing his mind. Perhaps loneliness and work pressure made him imagine things? He tried to find reasonable explanations. Could there be rats in the wall? Could vibrations from downstairs or nearby construction be causing the noise? But there was no satisfactory explanation for the knocking from inside, the scratching, or the objects moving on their own. He decided to learn about the history of this building. One afternoon, he went to the city library and rummaged through stacks of old newspapers and archives. An Lac apartment was built in the 1960s on the foundation of an old villa from the French colonial period that was demolished. There are no records of grisly murders or suicides here. However, he found a small piece of news from 1974 talking about the 7th floor of the building being closed for a long time for renovation, but for unknown specific reasons. The article mentioned residents' complaints about strange noises and puzzling incidents before the floor was closed. After that, not much was known until the current management company took over the building a few years ago. This information makes Nam even more insecure. He found Mrs. Lonigan trying to ask more about the 7th floor being closed before. This time, Ms. Land's smile completely disappeared. She looked uncomfortable. Mr. Nam, you're too curious, she snapped. Why do people repeat old stories? This building is old. It's normal to have some structural problems. The company is gradually repairing it. If you're in a cheap house, you have to accept some inconveniences. Don't listen to random rumors and bother others. Ms. Land's attitude made Nam even more suspicious. Obviously, she's hiding something. That night, Nam returned to the apartment with a heavy heart. When he put the key in the lock, he realized the door was unlocked. He was 100% sure he locked the door carefully before leaving. Heart pounding, Nam gently pushed the door open and walked in, clutching the umbrella for protection. The apartment looks normal, but when he entered the bedroom, he froze. The small wooden door locked in the corner of the room was now slightly open. A small gap, enough to see the thick darkness inside. The air was cold, and an indescribable musty, fishy smell emanated from that gap. Nam stood still, eyes glued to the slightly open door. The slow, dragging footsteps that he often heard at night now seemed to echo from within that dark space. And the whisper was there, closer than ever, as if calling his name. Reason told him to run away immediately. Get out of this damn place. But a morbid curiosity, an irresistible attraction kept him. What's inside that door? Why is it open? He took a deep breath, trying to calm his heartbeat that was beating like a war drum. He slowly approached, held up the phone, turned on the flashlight, and shone into the gap. The weak light only clearly illuminated a small, dusty space, like an old engineering shaft or a secret passageway that had been abandoned for a long time. There were spider webs and a thick layer of dust covering everything. But what terrified Nam were the deep scratches on the inside wall. right near the door, as if something had tried desperately to get out or in. And then, in a moment, the flashlight passed. Nam saw it. In just a split second, one hand, skinny, pale, with long, black fingers at the tip of the nails, clinging to the edge of the wall in the darkness, as if hiding. Nam let out a scream, reflexively stepped back, stumbling and falling to the floor. The phone flew out, the flashlight went out, the room was plunged into almost absolute darkness, with only a little light from the streetlight shining in through the window. Boom! The small wooden door slammed shut with a terrifying sound, as if a strong wind was blowing through even though the men's room window was still closed. The silence suddenly enveloped, heavier and more terrifying than the previous noises. Nam lay sprawled on the floor, shaking all over, cold sweat pouring out. He didn't dare to move. He could only stare wide-eyed at the now closed door as if nothing had ever happened. But I know. I saw it. There's something in there, and it knows you're here. He crawled out of the bedroom, not daring to look back. He packed his luggage hastily, haphazardly stuffing clothes and necessary items into a single backpack. He doesn't care about the remaining furniture, doesn't care about the deposit. He just wanted to get out of this place as quickly as possible. As he ran to the main door, his hands trembling as he unlocked it, he heard the knocking sound coming from the bedroom again. This time it wasn't 3 hours. It's a slow, steady rhythm like a countdown. Knock, 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 knock. Nam yanked open the door, rushed out into the dark hallway, and ran as fast as he could towards the stairs, not daring to look back even once. The knock on the door still seemed to echo behind him, until he ran down to the ground floor and rushed out into the crowded street. The neon lights and noisy traffic had never made him feel so safe. He never returned to An Lac apartment. He called Ms. Lon from an unfamiliar phone number, lying that there was an urgent family matter and had to move, accepting the loss of all his deposit. He didn't ask about the door, didn't ask about what he saw. I just want to forget everything. Nam moved to a new apartment in another district, tried to start life again. He tried to bury himself in work, meet friends, and do everything to banish memories of apartment 7B. But the obsession is still there. Every night, around 2 o'clock in the morning, he would wake up startled, his heart pounding, unconsciously listening to noises that did not exist in his new apartment. He is still haunted by the image of his white hand and the scratches on the wall. And sometimes, in his flickering dreams, he found himself back in the dark hallway of the 7th floor of An Lac apartment building. He saw the small wooden door open again, and from the deep darkness, a familiar whisper sounded again, calling his name, inviting him to come in.